Using these key projects that I took to introduce you, could you tell me, or could you tell us actually, how did these works and these projects start? Because of course these are just examples of a huge amount of projects you did, and each project is very different and very special. But maybe we can use these key projects as an example and as a reference. So can you tell us how they started, Masha, if you want?
Thank you, Francesca. Maybe we can book you for presenting us on other occasions as well. It was very nice. What you said about the arts was very complete already, but there was one information lacking, that is, it was on an abandoned coal mine. So the city of Genk was founded actually upon the discovery of stone coal. And it's very artificial in its whole city urbanism. And since these mines have stopped working, the city is marked by these vast territories of nothingness. And so we were commissioned by the city to reactivate one of the 3 mines of the city and already inhabit a space that has no meaning anymore and has no population to use it. And I guess this is how the whole idea came upon. And this is also how we work a lot to inhabit spaces and discover them, a bit like a rocket going onto a new planet, which was how the space felt a lot.
Nice. Thank you, Masha. Patrizia? Maybe you can tell us more about this this network.
I think what can bring us the most significant learning can be to focus the difference among our approach as well, which can be useful to participants, since we can see from strategies to methodologies, to processes, to projects, to devices. So I think your analysis will bring to users many different examples, which can be very important to enable new processes, which is, I think, the first important step. And in our case, we began from the observation in the city of Zaragoza of several abandoned plots existing within the historic city of historic district, and bringing to citizens and neighbors the opportunity to open those abandoned spaces and neglected spaces and to use them as new temporary facilities. So actually we began as through a kind of facilitators between the different stakeholders, because this is very important to understand. Now, when you face to a new project to reactivate a public space, it's very important to understand which role has each stakeholder. So the public administration is very important, because they can be the ones who enable those strategies. Most of the times are experimental strategies, as facilitators, designers, architects, or just let's say creative people, and the most important user, which are the new citizens. So in our case, we began as just facilitators, so we have been able to sign a lot of let's say temporary session of those private areas. And then, thanks to the huge success that is first step reached out from this program, we received the invitation from the municipality to begin this employment plan. So we received more than 100 requests from citizen association, and we were looking for private owners which wanted to loan for free their private spaces. And finally, we the most important step were this co-designing with the associations, always bringing together the most significant uses for each district. So it has been a, let's say, very transversal program, bringing together most of all the, let's say, the how can I say, most degraded part of the city, and public administration, and a lot of artists and creative people. And finally, as you said, it was during more or less, let's say, 5 years. And after our first intervention, the municipality just is going on by themselves. So they are still going on with this methodology that we activated. And I think up to date, we have more than 80 new temporary public spaces with very different processes and very different uses, but always bringing together all the citizen wish, and most of all, most necessary emerging opportunities to create the future of the city.
Thank you, Patricia. Sebastian?
Yeah. So the project started with an application of an environmental fund, and it started with something very rare, actually, which is we have in Portugal, we have the municipality, but then we have the local parish council. And actually there was 2 architects that worked in this parish council that were actively searching for calls, and they found out this call, and they were connected at the same time with the public school because they have a very close relationship. So they contacted us, and we started to collaborate with them to answer to this application. So that led, we had to find a strategy, a concept to reuse materials and to engage with the school community. So we started to think how to engage with parents and kids, and in which moments, with what tools, and that was pretty much it. And then we had the most difficult part, in my opinion, in these applications is that you need to get to a final result with a budget before you really know what is the scale that makes sense there. So what we did is that we created some range values, some several possibilities, and then we presented it that way. So it was easier to communicate the possible scales and possible engagement with the school community. That was the start of it.
Nice. Stefano?
Well, as you mentioned, Iceberg is part of a very long process in Largo Bartolomeo per Estrella. It is a square we are pretty, we really care about, because it's a square close to our practice, and it is a square of a neighborhood where most of us have lived during the years. The whole process started in 2010, and it has a pretty strong beginning and also political approach in the beginning of the process. You can see all the different steps on the website. In 2010, we were involved by the local associations, because there was a former parking lot that was basically built and was transformed into an underground parking. And on top of that, the construction was supposed to have a new public space. But before the beginning of the construction site, they opened the parking lot in the underground. and on top of that, they didn't have enough money to build a public space, so they went bankrupt, and that space was fenced for almost like 10 years. So all the local associations were pretty angry about that, because Largo Bartolomeo Perestrello, it is a square where almost like 40 different people from 40 different countries lived. So it's a very complicated and also vivid neighborhood. So we decided to open all the fences of the construction site and to occupy the space. After this first attention, in 2 months, they started the construction site, or they started with the pavement, but they succeeded in doing, the municipality succeeded in doing only the pavement, and after that they decided to open the square. So we were pretty happy about the first results. So, and from that, so we had this huge empty space, but now pavement space. We have started different steps of experimentation. So in 2017, we built Iceberg, a way to get in touch with the new association. Let's imagine 7 years has passed, so it was pretty different. Also the background, also the stakeholders around the square. So Iceberg was a way to get in touch with the other local associations to test the space. We built also a huge square where we had different moment of sharing ideas, and a way also to create a general program for the square with all the association. There was in the end there was 6 associations involved in the square, so we tried to create a general program and somehow like a kind of coordination of the associations. After that, we dismantled Iceberg, because they were always meant to be temporary. And after that, there was another step called Largo, where the iceberg was melted into water, and we decided to build a boat on top of that. And with the idea of the boat, we started to see which can be the next step, because we're trying to experiment different uses, but the focus point is that this public space is into like a gray area of the administration rules. So it is meant to be a market, but the market that is supposed to be there, so moved from another place to this place, doesn't exist anymore because 20 years has passed. So right now, this space is in the middle of, it is not a public space, it is not a market. So we're trying to, with this experimentation, we try to change the destination of the space in order to have maybe a more longer term project, and to try to have a more constant presence on the square. So I think something I would like to advise to all the participants is to start with trying to look with new eyes also their daily spaces, the spaces that they live on the daily life, and to start with unsolicited architecture, also unsolicited requests, just testing and experiment. I mean, I think that's the power of the temporary architecture. So it's something that can start new things and just give the hint of a new project.
Theo, if you want to close this round.
Hi. As you mentioned, the project of the Papomo is part of a broader series of projects that we have been running in the depraved neighborhood of Marseille, where we used to have our office, and it's a very specific project to us because it was a project with not a lot of money, and because we are moving from places to places. In between, we found times to work for the neighborhood and especially for the civic society. So we have been working with various associations in various places. We are a big fan of No Esto es un Solar, and it was really inspiring to us. So we have tried to set up something like this in the neighborhood. And working with the associations at the end, we found out that working on a tool more on a space would help to connect the people and the associations, and that not only on the scale of the neighborhood but also on the scale of all the city of Marseille. So this is why we came up with this idea of creating a set of tools, and this Papomo would be the first tool about gathering people, but we are thinking about building others like kitchen, bubble, tents, and other tools that that would be some kind of common tools that would be shared by the people of Marseille. So the idea of it is the Papomo should be really mobile, so anyone can use it very easily, and that makes it some kind of a common, because someone can come and pick it up, and it can help to organize things in public space. And we created this tool at a very specific time in France, where we had a lot of riot and a lot of people in the streets. There were the yellow jacket. There were many people against the government, and this tool was also to help and to sustain all the mobilization and all the people that were actually occupying the public space to reclaiming rights and other things. So that's also an important thing. And the version before the one you saw was in wood, and it ended up destroying by the police for a struggle in around a project of a public space in Marseille. So this one is in metal, and I think it should last a bit longer. Thank you.
Oh, hopefully, hopefully it will last. No, so as I was saying, like it's a very complicated and rich scenario. So already just mentioning these 5 projects, they are so different, like the way they started and the characteristic they have. But I maybe I can say that in each of them there was an opportunity as a start that your practices were able to see and to catch, and that there was a lot of commitment and enthusiasm, which I think it's a really important energy to start to set off to these adventures that all of you build with your work. And
unsolicited enthusiasm, as Stefano was saying, it's the best one.
Exactly, the hidden one, and because it is about, it's a lot about people and about energies and characteristics also, and abilities. I go with a more personal question. So if you can share with us what you think is your strength or your ability that you must use and you must apply during your work. I don't know, maybe some of you might be a genius in construction, someone may really good with talking with the municipality, or because this is, I think it's very relevant, especially when in this kind of project that are built of teams of people with different characteristics and abilities.
So I think my strength is more to react than to be the first person to reply. I was wondering if I should be the first to answer again. But Jacobo, you were saying in the introduction about sometimes the official way or the professional way of doing things, and then we position our work rather next to it. And I think we shouldn't underestimate the scope of possibilities that the official professional way also is very good at and very efficient at. But I think what we or I often try in projects is to be a bit to bring a narrative that's maybe also a bit silly or fantastic, and to take it very seriously, because it can create somehow new ties and new connections amongst things that are not connected in a very efficient way of running the city or running processes within public life. Keep it short.
Can I intervene just to make the because otherwise it looks like too frontal. No, because it's very interesting because on Monday we had a milestone, a PhD milestone here in Milano, and it was a thesis, a PhD thesis about narrativity in public space rehabilitation, and it is very interesting what you were saying about narrativity as a sort of device and a tool for initiating this process, because it's something also very investigated from environmental psychologists, and maybe not in an official way, but in a side way to work with the same kind of processes, the same kind of tools. It is very interesting. It is very interesting, even though it's not coordinated, it's spontaneous, but it is proving to be helpful in activating this kind of process that in some cases with more let's say more official way, like participatory processes that are structured in focus groups and something like that, maybe struggles to emerge. This kind of producing a narrativity, I think it's a very beautiful beautiful theme to exploit. Sorry for intruding this conversation.
Jacopo's quality is to be a good intruder in those. No, just kidding. Patrizia?
I don't know. Actually, it's hard to answer to this because I think there are several keys within such a complex process. So many users to involve, so many steps. I think it's important, maybe in our case, because we were always trying to keep a balance between the real needs from the spaces, real needs from the citizens, demanded by the citizens, and the dignification of the landscape. We talk a lot about this because actually we are often asked by students. For example, yesterday with the students from Sapienza, we have been discussing a lot about this key element, how to make possible from a participatory process to give space to the dignification of the architecture and of the landscape. So this is our key role, I think. We can be facilitators, we can be able to open new ways to make different parts come together, but I think the most important key should be always to make a urban space in a very good way.
I would say exactly like what Francesca was saying about the importance of the team. This for us is really key to count and to take the best of each member, and we count with it in an organic way. We know that one is more the guy to say if the structure is good, if it's strong enough or not. The other might have like organizational skills, and and so on and so on. So this, I think, it's really important. And then adaptation to difficulties or good things that are unforeseen in place when you arrive to the place, and then you see that you always need to adapt some things, and this has to be quick and in the budget. And this, I think, it's something that we do very often. And then also this ability to adjust and find solutions for any budget. We manage to find different things. And I would say also we always try to find different ways of engaging with people, because all contexts are always very different. So we do spend some time to understand what could be a nice way of engaging and specific.
Well, I can add something that is pretty specific for Largo Perestrello, and the fact that every time we do a project there, we try to use this urban storytelling approach, like having this narrative approach. So every time we get there, since it is a very complex space with a lot of people from different countries, different cultures, every time we try to create, let's say, a narrative dimension on the project. With Iceberg, the idea was we created also a communication strategy about that, also involving also other part other than architectures. For example, so we had an iceberg cocktail and an iceberg dessert that was basically a granita, the frozen Italian dessert. So we try to use this tool to involve all the different people using different approach, not just architecture. That's why we have organized a small party with the iceberg team. We had this communication with this billboard about the iceberg. So there is an iceberg up and coming to the square. So we try to create a narrative approach on the design in order to involve also different kind of people and inhabitants. In this way, we try to reach and to understand the needs on the square, and try to develop the other steps of the project. So each project, and that's why Largo is linked to the iceberg, because we decided to dismantle the iceberg. So we came up with the idea that the iceberg has melted, and a boat is coming for the near future. So we try to create and keep this narrative approach in order to also to create this kind of fake identity on the square, in order to let the citizens come over and start creating their own identity. So the idea to have a narrative approach, it's like create a fake story linked to the square, but it is a tool to let the new community have their own memories or their own way of approaching to the square.
I'm gonna do the intruder quickly this time regarding what Stefano is saying about welcoming and inviting inhabitants actually to join and to stay with inhabitants in the place inside the project, which on Largo Perestrello, but also for those of you who are in Milan, I invite you to come to visit another square that Stefano has been taking care of. I never remember what's the name. How do you call it?
There's actually no name. It's an intersection of two roads. But I mean, in the neighborhood, it's called Piazza Arcobaleno. But I don't love the name. But it's in the neighborhood, they call it like that. Okay.
So yeah, in north of Loreto, and it's really so. And also sometimes we meet there for a drink or something. And it's really also about this idea of conviviality and. Of sharing and spending time with people, with the community, and being together and indulging in the space, and also just having fun, and tools for conviviality. I think it's a good reference as well in this sense. But yeah, sorry to intrude. Theo, what's your quality?
Actually, that's what I was going to say, is that what is really specific to our work, I think, is that the act of building is always in our projects. We do not work on studies and on too intellectual level, and what we really like to do is to make this moment a very specific moment, and that means to work on many aspects of the construction, because if you are welcoming people just to build, it's not so interesting. But if this moment is about to learn things, like learn to cut wood, learn to set up things in space, learn to ask questions about your city, about meeting others, then it can become interesting. So we are developing many things around the act of building to make it more like a cultural and collective moment. And especially, I totally agree about the narrative part. And we are developing, for example, movies along some projects. And the movie is not only about questioning your environment, it's also about sewing the costume, setting the frame, holding the camera, being actor in the movie, and all these very concrete tasks make the people really involved into the project. And especially some of the people they can't, and they don't like to build. So to create some other moments around the act of building is also a way to include a very various range of people. For example, we try to pay attention a lot to the food on our construction moment. Of course, we are not as good as Italian collectives as matter of food, especially when we meet Horizontale, we can learn a few tips to make it more convivial, but we are trying to, at least. And so this kind of pedagogy, narrative, taking care of the food, being available during the time is really, I think it's one of our strengths and one of the things we are really wanted to do. That is also very important because in that sense, we don't have the feeling to work when we do our projects. And we want to give spaces and times to the people that are not related to this idea of work and daily life. And we want to try to make it extraordinary in a way so that the people can remember what they have shared during this act of building a long time after we left the place.
Sorry, Theo, you touched exactly points I was really reflecting upon. Of course, when you you work on a place, you provide a vision that challenges completely the ordinariness of that place. And in this sense, you provoke reactions that I guess in most of the cases are good, but sometimes maybe not. So my question is, have you ever been perceived as an intruder? And how did you manage to turn the situation into and this critique into a positive contribution?
Fortunately, that really happens like never. I will tell you once. It's for the Paris projects. We have worked in the center of Paris for a big project for the municipality of Paris in a project called Panthéon. You can check on our website. And it's a very rich neighborhood, very touristic and fancy neighborhood. And our project was about taking out the cars and put some like benches and terraces and conviviality space, like not such a big deal, you know, with a few trees. And but then the people can sit and have a beer for free. At least you can buy it from the supermarket. And the people in the neighborhood, they were really unhappy with that, because that means people that are shouting and staying at night during their windows, and because they are rich people, they think that their public space it's theirs, but it's not. And especially in this neighborhood, there are a lot of students. So then many students can come here and enjoy this space, which is a very beautiful space because it's around a very ancient church of France. It's like a monument of France. So now you can have for €1.50 a beer for around one of the beautifulest monuments in Paris. And if it's not making the neighbor unhappy, then to us it's fine, because many other people are enjoying this space now. So this is one of the example, and I don't really have other example, because really we are making us available for even changing the design when we come on site, because we are the one that design and build the things. We can manage to change the details and design, so the people can even at the last moment they can interfere mostly with what we are doing. So of course a few times people are unhappy, but I think I answered.
Can I turn the same question maybe to other experiences?
Maybe I can add something useful, because we began many years ago from a festival of art. And on that case, we didn't involve citizens too much. There was an open call for artists, and we just signed the agreements with the empty plots owners. So our idea was that that it was possible to regenerate those neglected spaces through art. And well, there were many interventions in very different places of the city, and most of those spaces were very, let's say, there was a strong social cohesion, where there were many problems of social cohesion. And one of those intervention, we were really fond of it because it was by N55, which is an incredible collective from Denmark. And they brought us a module considering the hiking price of the soil in Zaragoza. So they were thinking about very small micro modules, and it was completely vandalized by neighbors. It was a very interesting reflection, but we understood that we haven't been able to communicate enough to the neighbors its significance. So it was, let's say, the key point which made, there was a very important change after this Festival of Art, and we completely changed our approach, and we began engaging citizens in any kind of process, project and devices, let's say. So I think it's very important to analyze and learn from these negative points that I guess all of us can find along our ways. And it's very important to analyze and make these negative points. It's difficult, but we should be able to make it become the most important element. So I think.
I don't really remember of a project that was unwanted or rejected somehow, but I do remember some examples or some projects that didn't have the appropriation or the effect that we wanted or that we imagined. For instance, an archaeological site, and then it was a project in collaboration with the municipality, and all the people involved. I do remember also some members of the Construct Lab were involved in this project. We all created this vision for this site, but actually years passed and it's quite the same as when we found it. So sometimes that happened, but the rejection, this I don't remember so much.
Yeah, I guess in general, it's really like time gives you some answer that might be good or not good, but and also like things transform a lot across time, especially with this kind of projects.
Francesca?
Yes.
Can I add one thing related to your question that was the one related with the strength of the studio? I would like to add one strength from an external perspective that probably is marginal because it's not very praised in your work. I mean, your work are very praised for the processes, the kind of way they can impact to the in the social life, in the collective system of organization. There is one thing that is probably related with what Theo and Stefano also were mentioning, related with the construction. That in the end, one of your strengths is that you do also beautiful architectures or beautiful installations. I mean, it's something probably related with the simplicity of the tectonics you have to use because it could be I mean understood by anyone. It could be easily maintainable. It could be easily assemblable. It could be easily dismantlable. But still, in these years, I mean, in the recent past, it's very difficult to find some architecture, some installation with the same tectonic quality of yours, because it is something that generally is, I mean, demanded to construction companies. It is demanded to other people. So you have the general shape, and then there is other companies doing the implementation. Well, you doing the implementation with such a strong clarity in the tectonic structure, in my opinion, makes your architecture, installation, works in general really strong, really effective. I know that is marginal. I know that is marginal in comparison with the processes you can initiate, and but I think it's very interesting also to point it out, because it is something that also contributes to, I think it could contribute to the success of those operations. There is in chat, Francesca, do you mind if we, because there is a question in chat that is particularly interesting by Roseanne. Roseanne, do you want, can you intervene, or do you want me to read?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I don't mind. So my question was about, especially with respect to participatory processes, and I wanted to know how you draw the line between what people want and what is actually, let's say, from a designer's point of view, what should be done. I'm asking this question because I remember having a conversation with a colleague concerning participatory processes in design. And I remember her saying that she was doing a project and she asked people what they wanted and they didn't know what they wanted. Someone says this, the other says that. And at the end of the day, you could tell that they didn't know what they really needed. So from the designer's point of view, she thought this will be better for you, but they were saying something else. And so for me, I'm really interested in understanding where you draw the line between, from an architect or from a designer's point of view, what is really necessary, especially if it doesn't coincide with what the people want. I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, I think it was clear. And I think through the discussion on how negative criticism is part of the projects, we were already going a bit into this. And I think what's common, maybe a common part in most of our work, is that we don't really ask people what they want, but I know we try to create spaces a lot of times that give the possibilities to do what you want. And there's a really big difference between like expressing what you think you could want and doing something you want to do. I mean, I have this maybe simple example when my mother is working in the garden and I ask her, can I help you? You know, can I do something for you? And she would say, no, this is what I want to do. And I see city life and public life a bit like that. If you open the space for people to use the space as they want, you will not have to, you know, design and figure out what they want. It's more about creating an openness. And I think a lot of this toolbox that Theo was speaking about and the projects we had presented, they were about giving the possibility of expression that's not just discussion around a table in a participatory process.
Well, I would like to add something as well. I think it's something related to a way of intend the participatory process that maybe we can move on. I don't think it's so direct from the citizen. I want this, and so we, as an architect, we do that. I don't think this is the relations we should have with this kind of project. As Masha was saying, we create an infrastructure to discuss about public space. So I think it's slightly different. It's if we create a relationship with the citizens built on the idea of, oh, I do what you want. I think it's not a process of creating a community, of creating a community, exploring and testing the space. I think the strength of having a temporary architecture phase or to build your own process, your own project, I think it's the strength, and it's in the fact that you start creating infrastructure, you can change the infrastructure, you can move the project, you can dismantle the project. And I think that when you ask someone what they want, they always relate to the common idea of a square. They want a fountain, they want the slide, because they have that kind of imaginarium on the space. And if we want to move on the idea of public space, if we want to try to experiment to kind of public space, we should start thinking about participatory process as something more than just giving the citizens what the idea of their public space. I think it's more to create a process of reclaiming the space, of imagining the space, of see which part of the square is the one which more comfort, to test different program. I think temporary intervention, tactile intervention, the strength is in this adding this new space into the traditional way of doing public space architecture or urbanism. I think we should move on this direct relationship into the participatory process of asking what they want and do what people want, because somehow, sometimes, I mean, most of the time, it's just a fake imaginary of a public space. So I think we should give the inhabitants tools to understand also what they can do in public space, what can reclaim from public space, and how to regulate their own public space. I think that's the difference from, let's say, a traditional way of doing participatory architecture or urbanism and the way we all trying to do that.
If I can add something else, I think each case, of course, has needs different tools and different skills, most of all. But I think that more than participation, sometimes we should talk about collaboration. Because if we are able to make people to come to make together, sometimes it's enough. It should be enough. Also, if we only have the capability to create new links among existing different groups that many times don't have the opportunity to come together, if we don't bring them the opportunity, if we don't open new channels. I mean, it's not only about architecture, it's most of all about actions and processes that I think in a transversal way, all of us bring not to communities. And I think it's very important as well, as I was mentioning before, this is, I think, a key that we have to highlight, to keep the balance about the real needs that will change in the time, because inhabitants change and needs change, and the real needs that up to our intuition as well comes up from the existing place. I mean, this balance is very important, and I think it depends on us more than on the demands that come from citizens.
I'm really happy that we are all going over this idea of participating. And in Collective ETC, we totally agree with what has been just said. And I think that participatory design might be possible, but it takes a lot of time. And for example, the South African architect Karin Smuts, she's doing it, and it takes like few years to make the people be able to express their desire and so on. And for example, we have been trained like 5 years to be architect or designer, or so you can't ask someone what do you want for your space that has no relation to design process, and what is a project, what is drawing, what is ideas of forms, and you can't ask people in one afternoon to express their desire. So I think that's one of the new way of practicing architect, is not being an expert, a top-down expert, but to share his tools. And that is one of the things we have all said tonight, is we have tools, we have been trained, we have diplomas, a few years of experiences. So we have things to share to the people so they can better understand their spaces and act to it. So I think that is something really important, is this new figure of the architect. This is almost some kind of anti-architect sometimes, because, but at least we have what Jacopo said about the forms and the aesthetics is really interesting also, because you can see that the design is handled, like is controlled, and it's not chaos. And when we share the design, it's not like absolute, even if sometimes it could be interesting. But so we are all also controlling the design, and I think we all enjoy design. And to us, it's already a big task to be okay in our team, and to make a participatory design in our team of 5 people is already a big challenge.
It's a delicate balance. But I think what Masha was saying before quite summarizes what all of you are saying, so that we don't really ask them, but we do, and we offer good quality space to let people do an experience and just express whatever. And then I remember once I was speaking with Patrizia about these things of formulating questions, and that sometimes it's more about actually formulate with people the right questions, not really asking them something. And again, speaking also with Jacopo and Cristina about how to make a call, actually how to build a call, because usually calls have a specific program that you have to answer, and that you need to prepare a certain amount of square meters to do this and that, and to answer to a program, like functionalist program. And so again, I think all your projects are a very good example in this sense, because you rephrase completely this logic of offering a specific set of functions, and you reverse also the relationship with the community that you work with.
And it is also a reversal of the process of building space. I mean, usually architecture design is seen as a problem solver. Instead, in those cases, it's meant as a problem setter. And I think that is also very interesting to look at the call as a problem setter call instead of a problem solving call. Because I think it is coherent with their work, and it is coherent with an idea of producing the city that is not I mean, we have not to produce a mirror for something I mean, imposed from above. But it is something to be discussed and to be made together, I think. I don't know if you agree.
I like problem setter as yeah, no, hopefully actually during this coming month, more problem will come out rather than questions, also from the rest of the jury. And I thank Rose for these questions that actually opened up very interesting exchange. Hello, Rose. Yeah, I think I mean I had one more question, but I think we already answered somehow, because it was more about like which suggestion can you give to the participants joining the call. But I guess we said a lot, and we touched very relevant topics. So I don't know if anyone else has some question or want to add something on what we said already.
No, on this topic, I could maybe just add, I don't know if in your countries this also happened, but here politicians like to call participation when they do public sessions to present a final thing that is already totally defined. This is at least funny, you know, it's something really problematic, and it's the opposite of what I think everyone in this room, in this digital room, believes. And well, in my opinion, this line still in this question, I think that what people can really contribute the best, I think we all can agree that in this is the program definition, the needs, the local problematics. This is where people can really contribute more than in the design definition and if it's more beautiful or not, because in the end, we architects and designers, this was also said here, we are the ones that really like this part. And so the match between these two spheres, I think it's when projects get the consistency needed to make sense in the place and context where they are. That was the only thing I would like to add.
Nice. I don't know, I really thank you all for this moment of exchange. I'm really happy of this, I don't know, of this team, of this group. And I think this was it was a good occasion also to see a bit, at least virtually, each other, to start this path, let's say, together. And yeah, hopefully there will be other occasions for sure in the coming month to gather again, virtually, physically, let's see, in Venice, I don't know, somewhere. And Yeah, so we will share, as Jacopo also was saying, we will share the video online, also on the website, because I think it was a very important start of the call. And yeah, if anyone in the audience or if the jury will have further questions, we will obviously be available on our website on the Encounterideas email. And
yes, there is a forum on the website. So if you want to add some questions to this, because now we have to free our guests that were so kind to be here. If you want to ask questions, make comments, and so on, you can use the forum session, the forum section of the website, and post there whatever you want. Not exactly whatever you want. Moderation, but okay.
There will be filters.
Yeah, there will be filters. Okay. Thank you very much. We leave you to this sunny evening. Hopefully it's sunny also. No, in Berlin, no. Okay. Not in Spain. Okay. Yeah, Theo, thank you. Great.
That's what's kind of unfair. So
thank you for sharing your view with us for a few seconds. Not really the same in Milano, but almost. So yeah, hopefully see you soon, and have a nice evening to everyone. And thank you for joining this launch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Ciao.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.